Martha had passed her due date. She was going to give birth soon. All her friends were happy for her. Her family was excited, surrounding her to wait for her labor. Her mother also bought her a new car. However, her husband, Sean, was not happy about it. He thought her mother was satirizing him for being poor, but he pushed it aside for the sake of the baby. In the evening, Martha felt like she was going into labor. The midwife hadn't come yet, making Martha nervous. Sean immediately goofed around to ease her tension. Just then, her amniotic fluid flowed out. They were both nervous and excited. The alternative midwife finally arrived. The baby's heart rate was normal. The situation was under control. But when Martha went into labor, she couldn't push the baby out. They carried her to the bathtub. Martha calmed down a little. The midwife moved her back to the bedroom where they continued. The midwife suddenly found out the baby's heart rate was dropping low, quickly checking the record. Sean asked her. The midwife explained to him. Going back to bed, the midwife was a little nervous. But she repressed her anxiety and encouraged Martha to push harder. Martha still couldn't make it. The midwife told Sean to call for an ambulance. Martha couldn't give up, continuing to push harder. The baby was finally out. Tears welled up in the eyes of the parents. The midwife was also relieved. But all of a sudden, through the mirror, she found the baby turning purple slowly. She immediately checked on the baby, doing all she could to save her. When the ambulance arrived, the baby had died. It had been a month after the failed delivery leading to her first child's death. To a mother, it was a shame. When she came to work, all judgmental eyes were on her. Every time she met a child, she would stop and stare at him until her milk soaked her clothes. Everyone knew about her failed delivery, doing everything to comfort her. But to her, their comforts were like knives piercing her heart. As for the cause of infant death, even doctors couldn't give an answer to it. Sean could finally overcome. He excused himself and left her there with the doctor. Tears came in silence. Martha was both angry and upset. She couldn't get over her grief. Another month passed. Her family had chosen the tombstone for the baby. Martha found the child's name was wrong. Her family thought it was just a little spelling problem, but Martha got mad over it. She didn't want the funeral at all. Sean lit his first cigarette after many years he'd lived without it. Martha's mother decided to sue the midwife. Sean hesitated. He knew that Martha didn't want to go to court. But he was ridiculed by his mother-in-law. In her eyes, he had always been a soft-hearted guy. She didn't even want to sit in his car. She would rather walk home alone. Sean couldn't make up his mind about his mother-in-law's suggestion. He kept thinking and thinking. Finally, he persuaded his wife to follow her mother's decision. He couldn't see her like that. Martha closed the door. Sean cried outside the room. He stood at the door, almost pleading. Martha finally agreed. She met her mother. Her mother told her not to donate her child's body to science. She couldn't stand her grandchild being dissected like an animal. Martha could only ironically laugh. She couldn't stand talking to her mother anymore. Everyone thought she was cold and selfish. But no one knew the pain she was suffering. Everywhere she went was full of children. It was like rubbing salt on her wound. What she wanted could only be in the dreams. She put away the baby's belongings, but Sean stopped her. Sean started drinking. After 6 years of abstinence, she saw her husband drinking that much. But she didn't say anything. Both were exhausted. They couldn't be bothered anymore. No one wanted to stay in sorrow forever. Sean made an effort to heat it up with Martha. But Martha couldn't get up to it. But Sean's enthusiasm seemed hard to resist. He tried to undress her, but Martha didn't want it. Sean was mad at her. Martha wanted to make up to him, but it was too late. Sean ran to the sea and cried. Only the sea understood his loneliness. Winter was coming to an end. The glacier was melting. It was just that the grief didn't go away. Sean hadn't worked for a long time. He had to sell his car to make a living. On the other side, Martha found her new interest, reading book about planting, cultivating seeds in her heart. When Martha was in the car, she saw an earring lying on the seat. Martha realized it wasn't hers. Sean cheated on her with her cousin. Her cousin was the lawyer in charge of the lawsuit. Martha couldn't blame Sean. They didn't talk to each other for a long time. The two of them drifted away. No one could save one another. Living a messy life, only seeking physical pleasure could heal her. But she kept the bottom line. When she and her husband saw each other, they acted like two strangers. She was surprisingly calm. She lied to her husband. Finally, Sean hit her for the first time. Martha didn't say anything, pricking the cigarette into the yoga ball. The burn was dry just as their relationship. It was February when Martha's mother called for a family dinner. In fact, the purpose was to persuade Martha to testify in court. On the surface, it didn't last long until her mother started. Finally, a sentence became the fuse. Martha furiously walked away. She asked her mother what she was doing it for. It's about you. It's about you having to face it. I am facing it. I am facing it. I am facing this. I don't think you are. We need some justice here. You need. That is what you want. That is what you need. That is your way. That is not my way. That is what you need. Martha, if you had done it my way, you would be holding your baby in your arms right now. Martha left. Her mother came to Sean. He was given a check. She just wanted her daughter to be better. She was also a helpless mother. Leaving after dinner, Martha drove them home. Silence spread in the car. On the way home, no one said anything. Before leaving, Sean took off the hat he was wearing and threw it back in the car, walking away without saying goodbye. If only they could be less of themselves. In spring, Martha still attended the trial. She took the witness seat, answering the lawyer's questions. It was the defense lawyer's turn. She was rational enough to ask the lawyer all kinds of tricky questions. But the lawyer suddenly asked, "How you feel when you hold your baby?" "How I feel?" She asked for a break, getting out of the court to the studio, developing a picture taken when her baby was born. Seeing the child's face again, her eyes were dim with tears, but on her lips was a happy smile. Even if her baby had died after born a minute, she was still a mother. She went back to court, requesting to speak. The judge approved. Looking straight at her mother, she said it was not the midwife's fault. She was grateful to the midwife that she was there trying to solve an unfortunate problem that was beyond her possibility. No money, justice, or punishment could solve it. Because the tragedy had happened, it should not be extended in any way. That is not why my daughter came to this world. It's not for me to do that. The name of the movie is Pieces of a Woman. The term woman is more than just a gender. It also symbolizes great motherhood. In front of rights, in the face of the witnesses, in front of the law, the power of motherhood is negligible. But that power comes to get over all the obstinacy. If one day you're broken, please don't lose the humanity in you. Keeping going forward, the seed will germinate, the fruit will hang on the branch. Life is hard to understand, but stories are easy to read. I'll see you next time.